select, to retain from our consciousness and action all that seems to us good and reject all that seems to us evil, and so to reform our being, to reconstitute and shape ourselves into the image of an ideal, is a more profound ethical motive because it comes nearer to the true issue. It rests on the sound idea that our life is a becoming and that there is something which we have to become and be. But the ideals constructed by the human mind are selective and relative. To shape our nature rigidly according to them is to limit ourselves and make a construction where there should be growth into larger being. The true call upon us is the call of the infinite and the supreme. The self affirmation and self abnegation imposed on us by nature are both movement towards that. And it is the right way of self affirmation and self negation taken together in place of the wrong, because ignorant, way of the ego, and in place of the conflict between the yes and the no of nature that we have to discover. If we do not discover that, either the push of life will be too strong for a narrow ideal of perfection, its instrumentation will break, and it will fail to consummate and perpetuate itself. Or at best, a half result will be all that we shall obtain, or else the push away from life will present itself as the only remedy, the one way out of the otherwise invincible grasp of the ignorance. This indeed is the way out usually indicated by religion, a divinely enjoined morality, a pursuit of piety, righteousness, and virtue as laid down in a religious code of conduct, a law of God determined by some human inspiration is put forward as a part of the means, the direction by which we can create the way that leads to the exit, the issue. But this exit leaves the problem where it was. It is only a way of escape from the personal being out of the unsolved perplexity of the cosmic existence. In ancient Indian spiritual thought, there was a clearer perception of the difficulty. The practice of truth, virtue, right will, and right doing was regarded as a necessity of the approach to spiritual realization. But in the realization itself, the being arises to the greater consciousness of the infinite and eternal and shakes away from itself the burden of sin and virtue, for that belongs to the relativity and the ignorance. Behind this larger, truer perception lay the intuition that a relative good is a training imposed by world nature upon us so that we may pass through it towards the true good which is absolute. These problems are of the mind and the ignorant life. They do not accompany us beyond mind, as there is a cessation of the duality of truth and error in an infinite truth consciousness, so there is a liberation from the duality of good and evil in an infinite good. There is transcendence.
So, fairly long para. So, typical of him. So we'll have a look at what he said. In the previous para, he has told us that the problem of evil and origin and suffering is in the vital. He has told us very clearly, and that also in the right side ladder, if you remember. The left side ladder is the involutionary descent, and the right side ladder is the evolutionary ascent. And at the in the inconscient or in matter, there is no evil and there is no falsehood, because it's just one blank. It's not really blank, it's a blank that contains everything in it, inherent in it, potential. So the evolution starts, and when you come to the vital level, then you don't know which direction to go in, and so therefore error comes in. And with error, the error of body will give you pain and suffering. The error of vital will give you also suffering in a different way, and you will get wrong ideas also in the mind. Okay, so this is what happens, and then all these things, falsehood, error, and evil come. So now he's saying, what is the way out? Okay, this is what he's discussing. So in the previous para, he has already told us, nature uses very many methods. The first method is a selection and a rejection. So that selection and rejection also starts at the animal level, but it's at the sensory level, sensation. That sensation which is good, the animal accepts. That sensation which is bad, the animal rejects. Okay? So, but when it comes to mind, our mind, the same process of rejection and selection starts operating at the physical and vital level also, but mainly at the mental level. And then you have this idea of good and bad. So the sense of morality comes up with the development of the mind. So, and religion also is the thing that encourages you to think towards the good and reject the bad. But these are constructions. That's what we will say. Let's start reading the each line. So, yeah. So here also told us in the previous para that religion is a very relative thing. Morality also is very relative because it goes on changing from in time and in space. What is acceptable in one place is not acceptable in another place. Okay, so that's a very relative matter. Now today we'll read what we have just started. The endeavor to select. We have spoken about selection and rejection. We reject what we think is bad and what we think is good, we accept. The endeavor to select, to retain from our consciousness and action all that seems to us good and reject all that seems to us as evil, and so to reform, he put a hyphen in between. Okay? So slightly different from reform. Okay, so reform. There's a formation in the being, but now you have to new model the thing and reform. Old form goes away and the new form comes in. Okay, I don't know why he has put that, but there is a slight that hyphen. Okay, but there is some meaning to it. Reform. Your formation is there. You have to reject the wrong things and get in the good things. So this is a reformation of our being. To reconstitute and shape ourselves into the image of an ideal. Man has ideals. The animal has no ideals at all. The ideals are there when the mind comes in. And these ideals are mind constructed. He's saying that there is nothing absolute about them, but they're all mind constructed. And since they are mind constructed, in time and space, in different countries, in different times, these constructions go on taking different forms, and there are a lot of variations also. What is ideal in one country may not be an ideal in another country. The image of an ideal is a more profound ethical motive because it comes nearer to the true issue, not from the lower one. What is good and bad at the sensation level, now it is slightly more because you are using your mind as an instrument. It rests on the sound idea that our life is a becoming and that there is something which we have to become and be. So, become is a transition and be is a permanent. Okay, so otherwise he would say become and be. Interesting also how he uses words, you have to see what he means. So, become and then be that permanently. But the ideals constructed by the human mind are selective and relative. Now he uses the word construction all the time, and this you must be very clear about what he means by construction. Just as our body is substance, just as our vital also is a substance, but slightly subtler substance. The mind also, the mental worlds are full of a substance which is even more subtle than the vital. And these have colors and forms and shapes, just like clouds. They also have forms and shapes, but it's a subtle matter. So exactly in the same way, when you think of something, okay, in Indian philosophy, they teach you that suppose you're thinking of a mountain. What happens actually? Your mind is taking that mental substance and molding it into the shape of a mountain. Then you say, I understand. Okay. So this is a construction. So it's your mental substance which is just constructing something. There is no absolute truth in it. It's a mental construction. Okay? These I use the word construction all the time. Just a minute on. I have, yeah. Construction is a, he's talking about construction and growth. So I'll look at that afterwards. But he's saying construction and a growth. So what is meant by construction and growth? Construction aren't you coming up? Yeah. So construction is a rigidly fixed formation. Okay? But growth is an organic free development in any direction, not only one fixed by the mind of man. So this is why I'm saying construction and growth. Okay? So growth is different from construction. It's a constantly moving, an organic free development in any direction, not only in one fixed direction like construction is. So we are saying that the ideals constructed by the human mind are selective and relative. Selective because there is a rejection and selection. No? So, to shape our nature rigidly according to them is to limit ourselves and make construction where there should be a growth into a larger being. Without making fixed ideas, you should slowly grow into something. That's what he's saying. Okay, so the true call upon us is the call of the infinite, not the mind, okay, and the supreme. The self-affirmation and self-abnegation imposed on us by nature at the lower level are both movements towards that. They are movements towards that. So morality is a step towards the true spirituality. That's what he's saying. Imposed on us by nature are both movements towards that. And it is the right way of self-affirmation and self-negation taken together in place of the wrong, because ignorant way of the ego, and in place of the conflict between the yes and the no of nature. Nature at the animal level and also at the human level, at very level of undevelopment, if you want. But there is a yes and a no. The yes is the affirmation and the no is a negation. But then in human beings, this negation and affirmation become self-affirmation and self-negation. So it's you yourself have to follow that. In the animal, it's not self-negation or self-abnegation. It is just outer nature. It is mechanical. It is physical. So they're both movements towards that. And it is the right way of self-affirmation and self-negation taken together in place of the wrong, because ignorant way of the ego, and in place of the conflict between the yes and the no of nature that we have to discover. So we have to go beyond the sensational level to the mental level. There the selection and rejection become more developed. That's what he's saying basically. If we do not discover that, either the push of life will be too strong for our narrow ideal of perfection, its instrumentation will break, and it will fail to consummate and perpetuate itself, or at best, a half result will be all that we shall obtain. Or else, the push away from life will present itself as the only remedy. So now he is coming to the spiritual planes of consciousness, where if you don't use morality, then life with its strong urges will be too much for you. That's what he's saying basically. So you have to restrain yourself by morality. Okay? And you have to say that this is not okay for me and that is okay, it is allowed. So you have to control yourself with the mind. That's morality. But controlling with the mind is not going to be very effective. So if you don't control, life will become too much. Life means your desires, your attachments, your ego. They'll become too strong, and you will get, what will you get? Either you will not get what you want, or it will be a half result. That's what he said. Or else, when the yogi tries to control himself and see that he is not succeeding, he will reject life altogether. That's the Buddhistic solution. This is impossible to correct this life with its attachments and desires and vital pushes. So I reject it. I don't want to have anything to do with it. Okay? That's a push away from life will present itself as the only remedy. Either you succumb to the pressure of life, the strong desires and attachments, either you succumb very happily or you have to push it away and escape from the physical world. That's what he says. Push away from life will present itself as the only remedy. The one way out of the otherwise invincible grasp of the one second. The one way out of the otherwise invincible grasp of the ignorance. So, the only way is to get out. That's what he's saying. Okay? But there is another method. That method is going to talk later. Is it clear what he's saying? The mental development is very good, but it is never successful against the mind. If you remember the Gita, it gets blown away like the ship on the sea. The wind is simply blowing it away. The mind cannot control the force of the vital. That's what he's saying. So it results in two things. Either you get a half result or no result at all, or you decide that this is impossible and I want to get out of life. Okay, so that's what he's saying. There are two things. The one way out of the otherwise invincible. You know the word invincible grasp of the ignorance. Very difficult to get rid of the grasp of the ignorance. And what is the ignorance? Attachment, desire, ego. This indeed is the way out, usually indicated by religion. So religion says, control yourself, and even if you get half result, it's okay. Okay. Or in India, the religion said, get away from life altogether. A divinely enjoined morality, a pursuit of piety, righteousness and virtue, as laid down in a religious code of conduct, these are the solutions to the problem. A law of God determined by some human inspiration is put forward as part of the means, the direction by which we can tread the way that leads to the exit, the issue. Exit from what? Exit from the pain and suffering and the evil, falsehood and the ignorance. So, he has asked us in the beginning, if you remember, what are the instruments of nature by which it tries to get out of this evil and suffering and falsehood. So he is telling you now, it is either the morality or religion. And we'll tell you that do this. But still that is not enough. That's what he's going to tell us. But this exit leaves the problem where it was. That means the yogi may escape and the Buddhist may escape and get rid of his suffering. But what about the rest of humanity? It leaves it exactly as it was. But Sri Aurobindo is concerned with the humanity. He wants everybody to benefit. Okay? He doesn't want only one individual liberation. He doesn't do any good to the world. You have solved your problem. Fine. But what about the others? They're still in suffering and pain. That's what he's saying. But this exit leaves the problem where it was. Problem where? Not at the individual level, but at the collective level. The problem is the same. It's only a way of escape for the personal being, the individual, out of the unsolved perplexity of the cosmic existence. The cosmic existence, evil, pain, falsehood, all these things will continue to remain. The unsolved. But that's exactly what Sri Aurobindo wants to do. He wants to solve it at the collective level. He's not saying that here, but I'm telling you that that's the whole intention of Sri Aurobindo's yoga. Not individual liberation, but a collective ascent to another level of consciousness which will benefit everybody, not individuals. The Buddhistic solution is fine, but it's only for the individual. Sri Aurobindo wants it to be a solution for the entire humanity, collectivity. But this exit leaves the problem. The exit is the giving up of the physical world by the Mayavadin or the Buddhist. Leaves the problem where it was. It's only a way of escape for the personal being, the individual, out of the unsolved perplexity of the cosmic existence. Clear? Individually, fine. What Buddhism is saying and Mayavada is saying, fine. But it doesn't solve the problem in the physical world. In ancient Indian spiritual thought, there was a clearer perception of the difficulty. Ancient Indian spiritual thought, not the current one, because I'm not thinking of Sremdo, but the current one was escape from the whole purpose of life. But the ideal, spiritual ideal is escape from rebirth, escape from the world. We have solved your problem. The practice now, the Indian spiritual thought is explaining the practice of truth, virtue, right will and right doing was regarded as a necessity of the approach. The Raj Yoga method, okay? So he's talking of that, the practice of truth. Yamas, niyamas, okay? So you start with that. That's what he's pointing out. The yamas and niyamas are the Raj Yoga method, we know that. No? Do this, do that. Don't do this, don't do that. The practice of truth, virtue, right will and right doing was regarded as the necessity of the approach. Necessity of the approach to spiritual realization. Start at the moral level, very clear. But in the realization itself, the being arises to a greater consciousness of the infinite and eternal and shakes away from itself the burden of sin and virtue, but that belongs to the relativity and the ignorance. So, the spiritual level, you rise to the second level of the spiritual planes, and there you are no more subject to the falsehood and the evil. You see that completely, you are above that. You go beyond that. You go beyond the negative and the positive, both. Virtue and sin. When you go to the spiritual level of consciousness and attain to the Brahmic consciousness or the self or the Atman, you can call it whatever you want. Buddhists call it Nirvana. You have escaped from the falsehood and error and evil of the physical world. Okay. The practice of truth, virtue, right will and right doing is the first step in Raj Yoga. It's a necessity of the approach to spiritual realization. But in the realization itself, the being arises to a greater consciousness of the infinite and eternal and shakes away from itself the burden of sin and virtue. So no more, you are not concerned with sin and virtue, you are above both. Trigunatita. Okay. But that belongs to the relativity of the ignorance. Behind, there's even Nietzsche has written a book, Beyond Good and Evil. So in other words, he must have experienced the self. Of course, he goes off into another line altogether, but that's another subject. He was stressing the aspect of power. So that's why he went into another direction altogether. Sremdo calls him a blind seer. He was a seer, but he's blind. He doesn't know how to interpret the experience of the nirvana. Behind this larger, truer perception lay the intuition that a relative good is a training imposed by world nature upon us so that we may pass through it towards the true good, which is absolute. That's it. Yeah. So that we pass through it towards the true good, which is absolute. Not the relative good, which can change from country to place and in time, but something which is eternally true. That which holds the, which is good at all the levels, which is applicable at all the levels. These problems are of the mind and the ignorant life. They do not accompany us beyond the mind. Which problems? The problems of evil, falsehood, error, all this. They are there only at the level 1, the physical world. But as soon as you go to level 2 of the spiritual planes of consciousness, these problems are not there. They do not accompany us beyond the mind. So, in other words, you are free. There is no falsehood, no error, and no evil in the spiritual planes of consciousness. As there is a cessation of the duality of truth and error in an infinite truth consciousness, so there is a liberation from the duality of good and evil in an infinite good. There is transcendence. There is transcendence. So, not transformation of the lower. You are escaping from the physical world. So, your whole attention is to transform the physical world, but you are escaping. Transcendence is there. The individual is transcending the problems of the physical world. I'll read the summary, okay, of what we've just read. The vital mind tries for expansion, possession, domination, and mastery. But this is an ego-based effort and therefore defective. But the next stage in the evolution is a mind-based ethical way, morality. It's an improvement over the vital way and its methods. The ethical reconstruction of our being, recognizes a graduated transformative ascent and therefore a better way. But still, it's a rigid mental construction. The true call in man is for the infinite and the supreme. Nature's imposition on man of good and evil, the tendency towards the good and the distancing away from the evil are both useful to man in his upward progress. But there is a right way of rejection and a wrong way of rejection. There is a right way of accepting and a wrong way of accepting also at the lower level. So, but there is a right way of rejection and a wrong way of rejection. Similarly, there is a right way of accepting, admitting into oneself influence, force, vibrations, and a wrong way also. That is what man has to discover and practice. Now, the question arises, what is that right and wrong way? So, that is what you have to find out. So when you go to the higher levels of consciousness, something you can get the hint of that. Nature attracts us towards the pleasant and causes repulsion away from the unpleasant. This is ego-based. God pushes us towards the good and away from evil. 1 second. Yeah. So now there is more in the summary, but I'm not getting it now. So we'll go on to the next para. Okay. So he's going step by step now. So individual solution is possible. Nature will, you have to escape from nature. That's an individual solution. But it is not a solution for the collectivity, not for humanity. That's what Sylvia is concerned about. We'll read the next one. Okay? There can be no artificial escape from this problem. Artificial escape, no. Spiritual escape is possible. Let's read that. Who is going to read next?
Shall I read?
Yes, Shilpa, you can read. There can be no
There can be no artificial escape from this problem, which has always troubled humanity and from which it has found no satisfying issue. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil, with its sweet and bitter fruits, is secretly rooted in the very nature of the inconscience from which our being has emerged, and on which it still stands as a neither soil and basis of our physical existence. It has grown visibly on the surface in the manifold branching of the ignorance, which is still the main bulk and condition of our consciousness in its difficult evolution towards a supreme consciousness and an integral awareness. As long as there is this soil with the unfound roots in it and this nourishing air and climate of ignorance, The tree will grow and flourish and put forth its dual blossom and its fruit of mixed nature. It would follow that there can be no final solution until we have turned our inconscience into the greater consciousness, made the truth of self and spirit our life basis, and transferred our ignorance into a higher knowledge. All other experience will only be makeshifts or blind issues. A complete and radical transformation of our nature is the only true solution. It is because the unconscious imposes its original obscurity on our awareness of self and things, and because the ignorance bases it on an imperfect and divided consciousness, and because we live in that obscurity and division, that wrong knowledge and wrong will are possible. Without wrong knowledge, there could be no error or falsehood. Without error or falsehood in our dynamic parts, there could be no wrong will in our members. Without wrong will, there could be no wrongdoing or evil. While these causes endure, the effects also will persist in our action and in our nature. A mental control can only be a control, not a cure. A mental teaching, rule, standard can only impose an artificial groove in which our action resolves me- mechanically or with difficulty, and which imposes a curbed and limited formation on the course of our nature. A total change of consciousness, a radical change of nature, is the only remedy and the sole issue.
So, very clear what he's saying, that the obstinate ignorance of evil and suffering and falsehood in the physical world is very difficult to change. So you have to change that itself at this level. So you have to, the inconscient has to be changed. The base itself has to be changed. And that is exactly what they try to do by bringing in the supermind down here into the physical world. But there are two things. Okay? On the one hand, we are saying that the divine has involved himself in the inconscient. So then, what is this bringing down of one plane into the other one? This is something that we have to understand. So, why did Srinath and Mother spend so much time and so much effort on bringing down the supermind? It's already there in the inconscient. Okay? The problem is this, that if left to itself, okay, this supermind which is there in the inconscient will come up, because the push of ascent is there, the push of evolutionary ascent is there, it will come up, but it will take a million years. Okay, so just like matter has come out of the inconscient and also life has come out of the inconscient in millions of years. Okay? Even science admits that. Okay? And man has come only in the last, if you take a scale of 1 to 100, man has appeared in this only at the 90th or 95 level. Okay, it's just a very decent product. The rest of it is all inconscient, slow evolution from inconscient to matter, from matter to life. It's taken a long time. So that is the reason why they were pulled down. And what is meant by pulling down, that also we'll just discuss briefly. The evolutionary ascent has got two means of ascent. One is the push from below. Okay? The supermind and the divine is there in the inconscient. And the divine is perfection. So therefore, he doesn't want to be permanently imprisoned in the inconscient. So he is struggling to come out. That's the evolution. So that is one force. But there is another force also from above. Okay? The life, there are planes. There is an inconscient, then there is the matter, then there is the life plane and the mind plane and the spiritual planes. All these planes also are pushing downwards. They want to also penetrate into the lower. The light from the higher is trying to penetrate into the darkness of the lower. And it's happening. The life plane has pushed itself into matter and produced animal life. The mind plane has pushed itself into the life plane and has produced human beings. So now the supermind, if it comes down, it will produce supermental race. So that's the whole idea. So there are two forces, one from below and one from above. This also we can understand very clearly if you take two glasses of water and connect them from the bottom with a rubber tube. Suppose they are connected. Okay? Just like in chemistry experiments, we have that. There are two vessels connected at the bottom with a tube. If you press one, the other one rises. So exactly in the same way, the pressure from below is a very slow process, but the pressure from above can be much swifter. That is the reason why students have to pull down the supermind, although it is already there in the inconscient. So what is he saying in this para? He is saying that the inconscient itself, the base has to be changed. Otherwise, there is no solution to evil, wrong, error, and falsehood. There is no solution to it. That is the reason why he brings down that supermind into matter. Okay, that's basically what he's saying. So, what's the time? 36. We have got 4 minutes. So, I think we'll leave there because it's quite a big para. But basically, this is what he's saying. So, the other solutions are not good enough. Mental solution not good enough. Okay, even the spiritual solution is good enough for the individual, but not for the collectivity. For the collectivity, you have to go right up to the supermind and then bring it down here. Going there is okay. In the Vedic period, many rishis have gone to the supermind. Okay, there's a lot of description in the Vedas. But bringing it down here is another thing altogether. That is what the Sundar Mother does. Okay. We'll leave it at that for the time being. We'll do this. We'll do the para next time more in detail. It's already, we have got only 4 minutes left, so we can't do that. There can be no artificial escape from this problem. The artificial escape, what do you mean by artificial escape? You are escaping. Okay? But the real solution would be not an escape, but a transformation. That's why he's using the word transcendence. You are transcending, but we want a transformation, not a transcendence. So we leave it at that. Okay? If there are any questions, we can discuss it. But this is basically what he's saying. All right? Otto, no reaction from anybody?
Very nice para.
Huh?
Very nice.
We redo the para, okay? There can be no artificial escape from this problem.
This is the aim of medical yoga only, no?
Pardon?
In short, it may be the aim of integral yoga.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly. But we can't do that work of transformation. Okay? So he will tell us how it has to be done. By surrender to the divine, and then you can become the path up to the spiritual level is common to everybody. But after that, there are differences. He says that in the life given elsewhere also, that one path of yoga will say, go there and escape. Another path will tell you, go there and remain there permanently in this heavens. Okay, Jana Loka, Brahma Loka, okay, all these lokas, Ananda Loka, you can remain there forever. Okay, the soul can remain there forever. But Swayambhu wants you to get all that and come down here into the physical world again. So that's it.
Rangada?
Yes, tell me.
Here the biblical image here, the tree of knowledge and good and evil. This is very interesting to me. So is that, in the Bhagavad Gita, we also have the tree, Ashwatha tree. Are those two trees, are they like a same concept?
You are talking of the Ashwatha tree in the Gita, right?
Yes, Ashwatha tree in the Gita. And the tree of knowledge and knowledge of good and evil here in this paragraph. Yes. Can they be, are they kind of similar, or the cosmic tree? Yeah, I just wondering, like those two trees.
That is the involution that is coming down. The Ashwatha tree is an image of the one becoming the many. Okay? It does not speak about the falsehood and the error and all that. The Ashwatha tree is a symbol. It is there in the Upanishads also. Esho Ashwatha Sanatana. Okay, that also is there.
That's involution.
Pardon?
That's involution.
Involution. I would say involution. The roots are above and the branches are below. The one becomes the many. That's the symbol.
Wow. Then this biblical tree here, it's the opposite direction. It's planted in conscience. So Ah, okay. Can you say they are like cosmic tree then? What is that when they say like cosmic tree? Is that Ashvata tree?
Is it? Yeah, it's a cosmic tree. You can say that. Yes, you can say that.
The Ashvata tree, we can say the cosmic tree.
Yes.
Ah, okay. So Ashvata tree, the direction is like involution, and the tree here, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, it's a kind of an evolution direction then.
Okay.
Can you say that?
Shunki, put your thoughts down and
Okay.
email me as usual, okay?
Okay, I'll send you those. Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
But as far as I know, Ashwatha tree is just an image of the one becoming the many. Okay? Roots are above and the branches are below.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The problem of evil and suffering is not discussed in that image.
Okay. Thank you. I'll put the question in your WhatsApp.
Okay. Au revoir, everybody. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Rangada.
I'm cutting the link.
Thank you, Rangada.
Okay.